Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show, heard Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on PSA.com and the PSA Facebook page. The Great American Collectibles Show is brought to you by PSA and the National Sports Collectors Convention. Tonight's headlines are brought to you by Sports Collectors Daily. For all of your hobby news, features, and more, visit sportscollectorsdaily.com. And now, your hosts, Tom Zappala and John Molori.
JM, how you doing, my man?
What's up, Zap?
What's going on, brother? I'm anxious. I'm excited. I'm heading home.
I mean, I am too. I'm anxious. I'm more anxious than excited, I guess.
You're more anxious than I'm coming home. You prefer that I
right.
stay
I'm just looking forward. I'm looking forward to having you back. Yet, in a strange way, not.
Okay. Now, I don't know. Do I take that as a compliment or
yes,
not?
absolutely.
I'm not quite sure.
Take it as a compliment.
Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show. Tom Zappala, my compadre, Johnny Molori, JM as we call him, is in the house down in our studio. Chrissy, David are there. I'm still in Florida, but I am heading out, baby. Rico's already home.
Rico's home. All right.
Rico and I, we have a bet because, we fly down. We have the car shipped, and then we drive back because we take a little vacation, Ellen and I. And Rico and Elsie do the same thing.
Yeah.
So Rico and I have a bet, a $50 bet. He has a list of the roadkill that he saw on Route 95 all the way back to Boston. If I top that, $50.
Rico's he's like Phil Rizzuto. He used to leave the games early to beat the traffic. Rico leaves Florida early to get the better air traffic, right? Is that the deal?
You remember Dennis Drinkwater? Remember Dennis Drinkwater?
Sure, of course.
You know what Dennis's nickname was at the Red Sox games?
What?
8 2/3. With 2 outs in the ninth, he was out the door. Honest to God. All right, listen, we have a great show today. We're going to first bring in Steve Verkman from Clean Sweep Auctions. Steve has a 2-day auction, 2 separate auctions, one starting tonight. And then we're going to bring in, this is a guy that we've never, ever had on the show. He's got a great auction house.
Yeah.
Jeff Marren from Rockhurst Auction. Jeff is going to spend most of the time with us. And then in the second segment for a few minutes, if I can tolerate him, we're going to bring in Mike Provenzale from Heritage Auction. Mike has been bugging me. He's been bugging me. Look, can we get him on? Can we get him on? So he's on. But let's go to our friend first, Steve Verkman. Stephen, how are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. You got a couple of little blockbusters happening tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah, well, it's a little different than the other auctions. We call this our affordable auction. Almost everything is worth $500 or less. There's low minimum bids. Nothing has a reserve. So there's a lot of fun stuff in there, and it's a real collector auction. In this auction.
And what about the other one, the second one?
Well, it's 2 parts. There's about 2,000 lots.
Yeah.
There's about 2,000 lots in the auction. So it's a big variety of baseball autographs, baseball cards, sets, football items. We got tickets, we got pennants, we got bats, we got goal line postcards. So it's like a real potpourri of collectibles.
I went online yesterday and checked out some of the items, man. You're all over the place. You're all over the place, which is good. I mean, that's what people like.
Yeah, and the prices are all over the place too, which is not unusual. But some great deals and some big prices. Yeah, it's a real mix of stuff. So we run these kind of auctions 3 times a year. I think we're the only ones that do it. So it's it's something where someone can win 10 or 20 lots and not kill themselves. And our big stuff will be in the next auction. We have some huge things coming up.
But and JM, jump in anytime you want. But I just one other comment I want to make, Steve, is that I can't tell you how many emails, texts we get about guys like Clean Sweep when you have these, quote, affordable auctions. Because, let's be honest. We've said this a zillion times on this show. I call it the 80-20 rule. 80% of the collectors in this hobby can't afford a $500,000 card. You know what I mean? That's just not the way it works. They're budget-minded, budget-conscious, and that's the stuff that they love to buy.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Well, yeah, it's a lot more than 80%, but yeah, no question about it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And plus, if you want to build collections, it's sometimes it's more fun to be able to bid on 10 or 20 or 30 lots. So this is it's a very popular auction. It gets a lot of action. And it's like a big variety of things, from autograph cards to postcards to Perez steals and high grade cards from the mostly from the 60s and 70s and 80s, that sort of thing.
It's really neat, and I think that's what you guys both said the word. It's I love the idea of the affordable auction. Really, it's a variety auction. I mean, it's really unbelievable. I mean, can you pinpoint some of the things? One of the things really stuck out at me, Steve, is you had some great basketball stuff, some Larry Bird signed cards, Rick Barry, Shaquille O'Neal, Yao Ming, Tiny Archibald. I mean, some really neat basketball stuff, but a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah, there's some cool basketball signed cards. There's fun football signed cards. There's a bunch of hockey stuff. There's boxing stuff. There's just, kind of everything is in there. So there's a lot of autographed photos. There's probably, 200 or 300 signed baseballs, single signed baseballs, team balls. We have pennants, we have tickets, some good tickets. So a lot of the stuff that's really hot right now is in this auction.
One of the things that stood out to me, the 1947 oddball oversized cards. Can you talk about that a little bit, Steve?
Oh,
That's a good question.
Like the team issue sets, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Those. It's interesting. I like those things. So what the deal with those is they sold them in the stadium. It was a set of usually 25 cards. They come in an envelope. You can only get them complete, and they sold them for like $1 or $2. They started doing them in the 1930s actually with the Cubs. Then came the Red Sox. Then the Yankee and Dodger ones start around, well, I guess they start in 41, but you don't really see those. You see the ones from 47 to about 62. And I've always liked them, and we have customers that collect them, and they're fun sets. And lately people started grading them, so they've become worth a lot of money. The thing that's tricky about them is the companies or the teams were a little lazy, and they'd use the same exact photo sometimes 5 years in a row.
Right.
So it's very hard to date them. Like, what's a 47 set as opposed to a 49?
Right.
And collectors get very anal about that stuff. They want the 47 Yankee set, not the 49 Yankee set. So it's a little bit of like a dark science sometimes when these sets aren't complete.
You know what my all-time favorite clean sweep single item is of all time?
What item?
The Mother Teresa autograph. I bid on that, Steve. By the way, I did bid on that.
That did well. We've had that twice. We've had the honor twice.
He did trade it away for a Pope Paul VI, I have to say. But other than that,
all right, Steve, your website address.
So it's cleansweepauctions.com, and just please remember, for today's auction, which is baseball autographs, which is ending today on Wednesday, you have to have your initial bids in by 8:00 Eastern time. Tomorrow is cards, autographs from all the other sports and baseball memorabilia. So for tomorrow, on Thursday, you have to have your bids in by 8:00 Eastern. So it's cleansweepauctions.com. Remember, initial bids by 8:00 Eastern, free registration. Take a look. There's a lot of fun stuff in the auction.
So don't remember, at 7:30, the show ends. You have a half hour to do what you got to do to get into that auction.
Right.
That being said, Steve, nice chatting with you. And we're going to see you at the National, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll come by with the little camera. Molori's going to be my cameraman this year. We're going to come by and do some little interviews with some of the dealers. So take care of yourself.
Oh, you too, my friend.
Good to see you, Steve.
Always a pleasure.
JM, I'll tell you what. Steve's a good guy. He's got a great auction house.
I love the idea of the affordable. It's almost like cleaning out the attic type of an auction, right?
Exactly.
There's just a lot of great stuff there for every price range, but it's not junk. I mean, there's some good stuff, big names, good cards, good signed items. Got to check it out, and you got to check it out soon, right after the show. Not while you're watching the show, but you have a half hour after the show ends. Go check that out.
Thank you. Hey, our giveaway this week. This is kind of a different one that Rick gave me. This is another signed Rico Petrocelli. I'm looking at this.
It's amazing the access we have to Rico Petrocelli autographs.
Wait a minute, but hold on. Doesn't his head look a little small? I told him that. I said, Ricky, your head looks small.
I think that's Joe Foy's body, and Rico superimposed his head on it or something.
Actually, it's a nice picture of Rico.
It is. Well, he doesn't.
I have a great picture. And by the way, we're going to be giving that away later on out of the Staten Island Joe Marino. When I get back to Boston, we're going to we're going to burn this bag on
nice.
the air.
I love it.
Yeah, we're going to burn it.
We can light a couple cigars and
that's what we're going to do. We're going to burn it. But anyway, there's a nice picture of Rico that I'm going to be posting with Rico, Yaz, and Reggie Smith with cigars and beers in their hand when they clinch the pennant. It's a great photo. Elsie sent it to me.
I love it.
All right, we have this is a gentleman we've never had on the show before. Got a very, very, very popular auction house. Been around for a lot of years. Jeff Marren from Rockhurst Auction. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey guys, glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Hey Jeff.
You look like you look like a doctor.
Yeah, I put on a shirt with buttons today. You know, most of us dressed in this industry.
I mean, he could
There's
pass.
jeans on below, yeah.
I mean, JM, he could pass as a surgeon, right?
Yeah, I feel like telling him my list of ailments right now.
Yeah, I joke with my wife, at this age, I can go anywhere and get into any door.
Right.
I'm a middle-aged guy who looks like this. Everyone just assumes I own the place when I walk in. Right.
Hey, Jeff, tell us a little bit about your background. It's not just about sports; it's a little of everything. But can you give us a little background on Jeff Marren?
Yeah, sure. I came into the auction business from the marketing and advertising world back in the 90s, about 25 years ago. So I was doing that as a job in the 90s, and I came in designing auction catalogs initially, created one of the first auction websites in 96. And then I ended up working for one of the larger auction houses for about 10 years, moved to another one, took care of the day-to-day. So I've been in the business almost 25 years, and I opened my own firm a little over 2 years ago, Rockhurst Auctions. So yeah, awesome. And I covered in before this, I actually ran Graceland Auctions in Memphis for 5 years, doing nothing but Elvis Presley.
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit.
Yeah, you got to talk about that. That's unbelievable.
That's mind-boggling. I mean, that is...
It was mind-boggling to me. Yeah.
Oh my God, JM.
Yeah. Can you just start with that, Jeff, a little bit? Just tell us about that experience, because I think, when you do something like that, I mean, Elvis he's just one of those names, right? I mean, obviously just first name, but I mean, just the epitome of entertainment, the epitome of fame, worldwide fame. And, to do that and be in charge of that auction had to be something.
It was. It's funny, when I first got wind of it in 2014, I didn't realize it was a whole niche by itself. But Elvis and I've been a fan since I was a kid. I just coincidentally grew up in an Elvis household. I had an older brother who was a fan, so I was exposed to it. Even though I'm only in my 50s, I grew up a fan of his music. So in 2014, who became my partner had run their first auction, Laura Pickett, and she called me down there. And later in the year, I had no idea it could sustain itself just as a niche auction, because he has some of the biggest fans in the world. As we all know, he's an icon, but there's an interesting detail about his life. We all know about Graceland, and he owned all these homes and lived this lavish lifestyle. Well, he actually kind of created the supply for a collector market in the most unusual way that no other personality has ever done. Like, even when you hear about Marilyn Monroe or Sinatra or some big auction, it's like one group of stuff and then that's it.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, Elvis was so generous, and he started making money in, say, 56 and didn't stop until he passed away. Every single year, he was either the biggest rock star, a big movie star for several years, and then the biggest touring act in the world.
Sure.
So all that time he's making, scads of money, and he's very generous, and he's giving it all away. He's giving away clothing and jewelry, and he's very, very willing autograph signer,
right?
And cars and homes and personal effects and paperweights. So it's thousands of items that are now out there. And then over the last 30, 40 years, the collector base, the fan base who are collectors sort of discovered, they're like, oh, we can actually own things that he owned. We can own his clothing and his jewelry and tons of autographs. And so it's a weird case where the supply created the demand. Sometimes you guys will understand this. Sometimes, especially with like card issues, things can be so rare,
right,
that no one collects them and they have no value.
It's it's probably that rare mingling where the more stuff that's out there, the more people can buy it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not the other way around, right?
Yeah, and it's a unique case. The only other entertainer who's even close is maybe Prince, but everything's still there at Paisley Park. He kept everything, built a compound. Most stars don't do that,
Yeah.
So it doesn't really happen.
Jeff, just as a follow-up to that,
go ahead.
In terms of segueing, because you have at Rockers, you have some great sports items out there as well. What did you learn from the Graceland experience? What did you bring with you from that into the sports world now? Although your website has Americana, entertainment, the whole bit. But just talk about that segue and what you learned from Graceland you can apply to sports items in an auction.
Sure. I did sports and Americana for about 15 years and then focused on Graceland for those 5 years, which was great. It was great working on the at the mansion and on the compound down there.
Sure.
And running. We ran 2 live auctions a year, so it kept my finger in that, which was good because I had done a bunch of live auctions at the National for years, and we did nothing but live auction. We did them 2 or 3 times a year for about 5 years, and then COVID hit, of course, and that all ended. But So it was good to sort of run. It was kind of the first time I ran my own firm. It was me and a partner. We ran the whole show from soup to nuts. So I was in charge of the consignments. So it was an excellent sort of bit of my professional education to get to, have to travel more, do more consignment work, really land collections, that kind of thing. So that's what I was able to bring back when I opened Rockhurst, was all that experience in the marketing and presentation of auctions, and then running the day-to-day firm. And then that last step was sort of really high-end consignment work, meeting people, building relationships, and building auctions.
Jeff, are you a collector yourself?
I am. I grew up a collector. I like to say that I've sort of broken myself of it, because it was getting out of hand for a while. So
we know the feeling.
We can relate.
I still have I've gotten rid of most of my comics from when I was a kid, but I have my Hulk collection left. And but I collected stamps and coins, and I was all over the place. So I didn't collect baseball cards, ironically enough, although I did sell my brother's baseball cards when I was 14 and bought some really nice speakers.
Oh yeah, he must have been thrilled about that.
It's still, he has this fantasy that they were all mint, and it was mostly 1970 tops with a smattering of 71s, a little 68, 69s. And they were literally in a laundry basket in our basement. So you can imagine the condition. But I got some sweet speakers out of the deal. So yeah.
Yeah, chatting with Jeff Marren from Rockhurst Auction. Let's talk about the auction. I mean, again, sure. You're offering so many different things. Can you talk about, just give us a general description of some of the things in some of the items in the auction?
Yeah, sure. I'm pretty excited about a couple of different set runs we have with Topps and Bowman cards. They're both sort of fresh to the hobby, which is great. One is a collection out of Texas where the guy started buying packs in the early 50s and stopped sort of as he entered high school. So it's from 52 right up until about 63. And which was it's funny, when I had it all back, and he described his life to me. He ended up being a judge. He had a very successful career, but he said as a kid, when he lived in this part of Texas, he said there was literally nothing to do. He's like, I just happened to live in a neighborhood that was not close to where my school friends were. He said, all I did was buy baseball cards. So it's great that the collection came out of packs right from his hands. Not that it's super high condition, but it's really complete. And the funniest part of it was when I finally got it in the office. And if you've ever been involved in these breakdowns, you put the 500 and 1,000 count boxes kind of on the table in order. You're sort of organizing things, and it created this perfect bell curve from 52 to 63 or 64.
Wow!
And then I called him back, and I'm like, well, "How old were you in 1960 at the peak of the curve?" He's like, "Oh, I was 13." I'm like, "Well, that makes perfect sense."
Wow!
He probably had a few bucks in his pocket from a paper route,
right?
And he was buying, and then, of course, when he's 6 and 7 and 8, he doesn't have much interest. And then it peaked at like 13 or 14. And then I said, right, when he's 15, he's, meeting girls and going to high school and doing whatever else they did in the 60s. So It sort of drops off precipitously, but it's a really fun collection with a lot of cards. So,
hey, Jeff, for people who aren't familiar with Rockhurst, obviously it's the first time you've been on our show, but you've been in the business for a long time. Reading everything on your website about the company, about the auction house, it keeps coming back to a couple things, and that's customer service. And the other phrase was attention to detail. Can you just kind of expound on that a little bit and how that applies to what you do and how it makes you unique in the marketplace?
Yeah, sure. It's funny. I came into the business with pretty cold from a marketing background, which has a certain level of detail to it. But I noticed right away that the way that it was done, where it was successful, was then when everything was treated with the greatest care. And I always, it's funny, I talk about with my writing staff or when I'm writing myself, I think about returnable offenses. And that means that if you didn't turn the thing over and describe that damage on the back, and if you didn't, do a proper count, if you didn't, properly put this thing in historical context, well, right. the customer is going to be disappointed. The collector wants, it's funny. We're actually in the marketplace business. That's how I think of the auction business.
Good
I thought of it as just collectibles when I came in, but what I learned over the years was that what we really do is we create marketplaces where we want sellers and buyers to meet,
right,
and sell and bid with reckless abandon. And the only way they do that is when they completely trust the context in which the lots have been put.
That's right. That's right.
I think that is so important. We're going to take a break now. We're chatting with Jeff Marren from Rockhurst Auction. We've got a lot to talk about, Jeff. When we come back, I want to talk about the budget-minded collector, because that as we talked about it earlier with Steve, that represents a large segment of the collecting world, and you have a lot of offerings just to accommodate that collector. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auction and Collectibles Company. If you're looking to maximize your return on your sports cards and collectibles, look no further. We at Memory Lane Auction House offer you several options to achieve top dollar for your collectibles. Whether you're looking to auction or sell privately, we're the #1 choice with over 17 years in the hobby. Nobody will work harder to achieve your goals. Just call us today at 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE. Or visit us on the web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Go with the best. Go with Memory Lane.
Let's go. Batter up.
Hi, everyone. This is Rico Petrocelli. JustCollect.com, a leader in the vintage sports card industry, is giving free appraisals on your vintage cards. They'll evaluate your collection for free and let you know the value of it at no cost and no obligation. If you're ready to sell, JustCollect.com will offer you industry-leading prices to buy your card collection. To begin your free baseball card appraisal, visit JustCollect.com or call them at 732-828-2261. That's JustCollect.com for your free vintage card appraisals and top buy prices for your cards. Check out JustCollect.com today.
Since 1996, Brian Drent and the staff at Denver's Mile High Card Company have led the charge in the collectibles hobby. Mile High is a full-service dealer specializing in buying and selling cards and offers a competitive consignment program for all collectors. Whether it be their computerized want list service, appraisals, or auction services, Mile High has it all. If you've been searching for a company with a selection of high-grade vintage 1888 to 1970 baseball cards and memorabilia that shares your passion, aim high, Mile High. Go to milehighcardco.com or call 303-840-2784 for more information.
For more than 30 years, Robert Edward Auctions has been the industry leader when it comes to helping you realize the most money for your baseball cards and sports memorabilia. In addition to their unparalleled reputation for honesty and integrity, they reach the largest number of bidders in the business and offer lower seller's fees, as well as generous cash advances up front on your valuable material. Contact them today at 908-226-9900. That's 908-226-9900 or at robertedwardauction.com.
How would you like to own the bat that was used by your favorite player when he hit that towering home run or game-winning base hit? Now look no further than JT Sports, specializing in the sale and authentication of professional game-used bats. As the official authenticators of professional model game-used bats for PSA DNA, JT Sports will guarantee the authenticity of any bat purchased from them. JT Sports also buys and sells game-worn uniforms, gloves, and baseball equipment. The unique quality of the collectible is what JT Sports is all about. Give them a call at 609-487-8003 or check them out at GameUseBats.com.
Pristine Auction is a family-owned and operated online auction specializing in autographed memorabilia, sports cards, coins, art, and collectibles. Since their founding in 2010, they've grown to 2 facilities in Phoenix, Arizona, totaling over 60,000 square feet. Jared Cavalier and an incredible staff of over 150 team members serve a very large customer base and enjoy every minute of it. By working with leading authentication companies, Pristine ensures all items are 100% authentic. In addition, third-party authenticators regularly travel to Pristine Auction to provide authentication services on site. Pristine Auction strives to operate its business in a way that's honoring to God, their families, and their customers. With a strong focus on speed, quality, and premier customer service, their mission is to be the leading online auction for every level of collector and fan. Pristine also works for Hope Sports and Identity Hoops International, traveling to Mexico to build houses for the less fortunate. Pristine Auction offers several online auction formats with thousands of auctions ending each day. For more information, go to pristineauction.com. That's Pristine Auction, the best in the business.
Okay, we are back. Hey, Jim, you got to do me a favor.
What's that?
You got that hat. You got to make that hat go away. You
This
you
is
look
my-
like Opie
this is my-
from the Andy Griffith.
That's my Celtics hat for the playoffs. It's my
I mean,
Celtics hat.
maybe your head is too big for the hat.
Really? You look like I don't even know what you look like.
Hey,
all right?
this is first of all, it's the Red Sox.
You look like
season.
Mike Lowell and Rico Petrocelli had a kid, and you're it.
Someone told me I look like. Have you ever seen a picture?
By the
of
way, that
Dion?
wouldn't be a bad-looking kid. Just want to
Thank
say.
you. Thank you very much. All right, let's get back to Jeff Marren from Rockhurst. Jeff, we were talking about the budget-minded collector. How important is it? I mean, how important is that budget-minded collector to the hobby? The guy that I always say can't spend 50, 60, 70, 80 grand on one item. How important is that to Rockhurst Auctions?
Like someone not Tom Zappala. That's what he means.
Yeah,
Jeff,
okay.
right?
Yeah, the big hitters. So, it's funny. There's always an argument that, we'd all love to be selling nothing but, Renaissance era paintings and have 20 lots in our auctions, but that's not how the world works. And quite frankly, it's not just about the budget-minded consumer. I think the range of collectibles, from the very high end to the very low end, is what everybody collects. Like, there's a few guys who simply are great, doing nothing but high-end graded sets. I get that, but most collectors of, say, baseball memorabilia, they will collect things that are, $5,000 and $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, but they also like a nice $500 to $1,000 item that is really cool. It's minty. It's maybe a small item. Maybe it's a poster, a Topps poster from the 60s or 70s.
Right.
That stuff has its place, and not only has its place in the market to attract low end, a consumer who spends less money, but I'm of a firm belief that the high end collectors collect that stuff as well, and that's sort of how the range of collectibles needs to be presented in an auction within reason. I mean, frankly, you have to be able to make a few bucks on the thing if you're going to present it. So
of course, absolutely,
there is a bottom for that. There's a place for eBay in the world, but. And that's, I think guys collect it all, quite frankly. And I try to treat that stuff as in the same manner as I treat the high-end stuff too. And that's also something that sort of, I think, distinguishes our presentation, is some of that stuff gets more than you'd ever imagine it gets in terms of presentation. But like, take a set that might be worth, with no graded cards, whatever, a 73 top set with a beat up Schmidt rookie. But I'm gonna photo every card. I'm gonna present every card in the auction, and why shouldn't that be presented in the same way?
I agree. That's a very good approach.
Yeah, and having said that, though, you do have some marquee players and player items in this auction. Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, Sandy Koufax, Michael Jordan. Can you just talk about a couple of maybe some that's kind of a couple of the wow items to you, or what people can look forward to at Rockhurst? Yeah,
there's some nicer higher end cards in those sets that I talked about. There's hold on, let me bring up a list here. There's actually the entertainment stuff's pretty high. There's a nice 52 Bowman Mantle rookie card.
Yep, saw that. Yeah.
That's a tough card. It's always sought after. Everyone's always trying to upgrade that.
Is that a graded card?
It is. We won't mention the grading company, but yes, it is.
No, that's okay. But no, you can. It's okay, because I have one. I'm just curious as to.
No, it's an SGC 7.
Nice card.
It's a pretty nice card. And there's, I've got several Rose rookies in like a PSA 6 and then a 4.
Yep.
And then there's some in the sets too. So it's kind of a nice assortment, and the sets themselves are nice. There's some nice stuff. And back to the budget-minded thing. The other thing I think to remember in terms of a long-term growth of the industry is, like, that's where collectors come from. They come in at the low end generally,
They all do, unless unless you're Steve Cohen,
Well, there are exceptions to that, but mostly guys come in and start to dabble and start to educate themselves on what they like and how the hobby works and how things work. So that low end serves as an entry point for a lot of people that, because we're really looking to have people come in and spend a couple decades with us. That's the idea. That's what grows the industry. So.
It's interesting, but we've seen this in the past. You have, besides sports, you have some really cool Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
Americana, music stuff. You'd be surprised how interesting sports collectors look at that stuff. I mean, can you mention some of those items that you have that are kind of that jump out at you?
Yeah, to your point, I learned 20 plus years ago that the crossover is an important element to it. And that's why I present everything at once. I mean, there might come a time when I'll do separate auctions, that kind of thing. I'm doing a live Elvis only auction this summer in Memphis, but to put them all in front of the marketplace at once is key, because that crossover bidding and interest is really real. So
I wasn't kidding, by the way, when Steve was on early, I don't know if you heard it, because I know you're in the green room. When Steve Verkman had his, I was bidding on a few items, and boom, this Mother Teresa autograph hits me in the face. I says, that's kind of cool. So I bid on it. But, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, we've got some great rock and roll stuff. I have a killer Paul McCartney jacket that he wore on stage in '63, kind of just as they were ascending in London, in England before they got here. It's just killer. It's got great photo evidence. And he left it in the car one night, so it's got a great story behind it. Like they were staying in some small town playing what were effectively movie theaters back then. And he signed an autograph for the guy, and then he left the jacket in the car. So we got the autograph and the jacket.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Jeff, if and when you do that Elvis only auction, will you please come on the show wearing the leather suit that he wore in the '68 TV special? That's awesome. Safely ensconced in the Graceland That would
archive,
be great.
But, yeah.
And Zapp can wear.
Let me tell you something. That show,
right,
was a killer. I mean, that was like Elvis at his best. That one show.
I didn't really see it, Zapp, because I was only 2. But
no, it's been on TV.
I know what you mean. It was like it was the rekindling of his career. It really was.
He just killed it.
He did.
It's a great story too, because the Colonel wanted it to be a Christmas show. He's always thinking of just how to market stuff sort of broadly. And the producer and Elvis got together and said, "No, we're doing a show. We're doing a rock and roll show." And so, yeah, it's just one of those. And then it put him back on stage. That was the key thing. He hadn't been on stage in 8 years at that point. At all. He was making movies. And so that put him back on stage and made everything that happened after that, all the Vegas shows, all the touring in the 70s. It made it all possible, because he was really nervous about that whole thing, and it just went so well.
That was just a killer.
And he looked great. I mean, it was just unbelievable. He
did. He had trimmed down and he looked good.
He looked great.
Hey,
that suit is safely at Graceland. It's not out there anymore.
Hey, Jeff, speaking of that, I mean, when you were doing that, the Graceland, did you get close to Elvis's family, Priscilla? Did you take in everything around Graceland? Did you kind of take a moment to say, like, I'm dealing with Elvis here? Like, did you separate the business from the person a little bit?
I did have a couple of nice moments there. I didn't meet Priscilla. We kind of left them alone. Whenever they were there and we were there, they were like under high demand during big festivals and things.
Yeah.
But it was nice. I worked in the archive building, which was fascinating. So the archives were like something out of Citizen Kane. Like, my office was in a separate section of it, but I would walk by in succession, like a stack of television sets going back 50 years, and then a jet engine plane, an old truck, Lisa Marie's bed from her bedroom, and then my office door. So it was really, and that's how you sort of have to store that stuff. But it was really cool to be involved in that. And I worked, I worked for the estate at that point. So we worked closely with the marketing department and everything to do with Graceland in terms of putting our events on during the big festivals they have down there twice a year. So it was a fascinating experience.
I can imagine.
Hey, Jeff, tell us about the Dick Perez artwork. He's a wonderful artist. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I got a small selection of Dick's pen and ink drawings of Jackie Robinson, Ted Williams, Epa Rixey. There's a couple other Hall of Famers, a couple of the Black Sox characters, and they're really nice. They're really nice drawings, not as super high-end paintings, but the other fascinating thing Dick gave us was his personal sport magazine collection, where he did a lot of his research and got a lot of his inspiration. So it's his sport magazines from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, his personal copy of Sports Illustrated #1, and then other groups of baseball magazines with Who's Who and from the 40s and 50s. So he said he found those just inspiring for the different players he's painted over the years. So it's kind of fascinating to have that collection in the auction as well.
Jeff, in doing the show, we're seeing that collectors and potential investors, in terms of cards and sports cards, it seems like some people still like to go in and get the individual card, that Great One card. Others are gravitating more toward complete sets. As a guy who is in the business, excuse me, but also as a collector, where do you see that going? And do you prefer to buy a complete set or go after card after card?
Yeah, the collector in me is a completist. And so I understood that about the business right away. I understood the complete set notion or the complete group of whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Whether it's a magazine or some piece of memorabilia or a Heartland set. Like, I totally understand the completist attitude. That's really what drives us all to collect in the first place. And the investment part of the market and the dollar amount that's gone up. And I saw the first wave of that in the late 90s, but the money is so serious now. I understand the single card collector, and you can have fun with that too. There are sets within single cards.
Sure.
I remember a guy putting together a Gem Mint 10 example from every top set, that kind of a way to collect, or collect a player group in high grade, condition. So you can skin that cat either which way. I think eventually guys want to put sets together. That'll always drive things, and it'll drive, and the value of that high end stuff, not to go off on a tangent, but the value of the high end stuff will also drive people to other stuff, to other sets. We've seen it, 1,000 times over and over. As the 50s and 60s tops became so expensive, it drove them into the 70s. It drives people into the 80s, drives people towards non-sport. So it can have a nice effect where other stuff becomes interesting and more collectible, and starts to gain some value itself. So it's a cycle that seems to repeat itself.
Jeff, what is your take on the new influx of ultra modern and modern collectors coming into the market, as well as the ultra modern and modern cards? We always refer to it as manufactured rarities,
right?
Or scarcities. Question is, there is a place for it. Do you think it's impacting the vintage market at all?
I think when you see a big price on a card that's 2 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old, we also, people have been doing this a long time. There's a tendency to want to shake our heads, but someone's writing that check. Someone's paying that money. And I'm a firm believer that all boats rise in a high tide. So it's great when a great piece sells or a big number's achieved, even on a card, from some rookie guy, some rookie football player from last year. I understand that. I think it's a sign that the market has matured, because like any sort of, if you think of it like the financial markets, when you have a liquid, deep market with a lot of money and some age to it, you're allowed to have some day trading. And that's kind of what happens with these modern cards. I've talked to guys who are buying cards on Wednesday and Thursday, hoping this guy has a good game to try and sell them on Monday.
You're making a great point.
Yeah.
That's how, I think, John, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
We look at the vintage cards or the vintage collection as kind of like the blue chip stocks, the IBM, the AT&Ts, right, the Procter and Gambles, and then the new stuff that's coming in. It's actually right. It's like day trading. It's like, you're day trading stocks. It's a great analogy. Great analogy.
Well, there's also, a lot of predicting, right? Like people that bought up all those Zion Williamson cards, right? Yeah. And now he hasn't played really in a year. So, now he may eventually be great again. So you're going to hang on to those, I suppose.
You're rolling the dice.
Yeah, you are. You're rolling the dice. There's no question.
There's no doubt.
Babe Ruth's stats aren't changing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I love the modern market. I think you bring more collectors in.
Absolutely. 100%.
And people
I'll tell you what, from what I've seen from this side, the collectors in that market are very, very knowledgeable. Very knowledgeable. The millennials, the 25 to 35, whatever they are, they really know their stuff when it comes to those particular, whatever those collections are.
And Jeff, don't you think, as a guy who's been in the business a long time, that I know it happened to me just as a sports fan when I get into sports at 9, 10 years old, rooting for Carl Yastrzemski or John Havlicek or Johnny Busick, whatever. The sports fan in me drove me to go back and learn about Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle. Yeah. Don't you think that happens also with these young collectors? They gravitate by just learning the market, right?
Yeah, and they're going to discover these earlier issues, these earlier parts of the memorabilia market, and I think that's what happens too over the course of a person's collecting, is they become more mature in terms of what they're interested in.
No doubt.
And it can lead them into the older sets, the actual game use stuff. So, once that door is open, they can learn about all of it. And it seems to be happening. I've watched it happen with guys over the years where they wander into the collectibles market for one thing, and then they're sort of educated by what they see happening around them, and they get interested in something else. So it's what drives the whole thing. And it's a modern, like I say, it's a modern liquid market. And that's a good thing. And it comes with its downsides too, because there's incremental crashes that occur in certain sectors. I mean, so you can treat it just like any other market. And it wasn't that way 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It was much smaller. It didn't have, and when you get to this size, it sort of builds in a little stability, but there's also, I mean, look at the Jordan rookie cards. That's a perfect example of of an item that's peaked a couple times over the course of time, where
absolutely.
Yeah, the numbers in the late 90s were astounding. They were going for like, what are you talking about? That card's worth 20,000 plus, and it just happened again, a year and a half ago.
Right.
I just sold a Jordan 9 in the low 20s a few months ago that would have been in the low 60s or 70s 18 months ago. So things come and they go.
We have about 2 minutes left, Jeff. So the auction starts on April 28th.
That's
right?
actually the closing date. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Closes on the 28th. How can they bid? What is your website address?
Sure. We're at rockhurstauctions.com. Kind of rolls off the tongue. Bidding will probably start on the 20th or the 21st. We like to go up about a week beforehand. And everything closes that night on its own 30-minute timer on the 28th. So there's no sniping. Everyone will have time to move their money around. Should be about 600-700 lots in the auction. And like we said, it'll be a nice variety of stuff between sports and rock and roll and Hollywood and Americana.
Yeah, I mean, I said we just touched upon the Hollywood stuff. There was some really cool stuff that you have.
Unbelievable.
Really cool Hollywood stuff. I'm sure that you.
Fun stuff.
Is that from one consignor, or do you have an agreement with somebody?
I have some, it runs the gamut. I have single item consigners, and then I get collections of stuff in. So it comes in all shapes and sizes. So
awesome. Well, listen, thanks for joining us. We hope you can, join us again down the road.
Absolutely.
Seems like you really have a great auction site, great company, and wish you the best.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It was great.
Thank you,
All
Jeff.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. If we can find Provenzale, he could be drunk. He could be sleeping under a park bench. He could be somewhere. But we're going to see if we can find him. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
If you're a discerning collector interested in owning the most important pieces in the hobby, look no further than Leland's Auctions. The original sports auction and appraisal house, Leland's was established in 1985 by legendary Pioneer founder Joshua Leland Evans. And today, President Mike Hefner carries on the tradition. From the Tom Brady card and memorabilia collection to the famed Boston Garden auction to high-end card auctions from every major sport, Leland's has always maintained the highest standards. Go to Lelands.com and get your bid in. That's Leland's, the hobby's leading sports auction house for 4 decades.
This is Brian Drent, president of Mile High Card Company. Is your sports card and memorabilia collection properly insured? For easily replaced personal property, homeowners insurance is all most people need. But for prized possessions that you may have spent a lifetime collecting, it doesn't go nearly far enough. Collectibles Insurance Services has been insuring for over 50 years. They offer a full range of protection and a $0 deductible at an affordable rate with no appraisals required. I know because they insure my collection. If you have a minute, go to collectinsure.com and learn more about insuring your personal card or memorabilia collection.
It's often been said that championships are won on the practice field, and world records come only to those willing to work harder than everybody else. Heritage Auctions is the world's largest collectibles auctioneer because we believe that becoming the best is only an invitation to the challenge of remaining the best. This requires the skills of the hobby's top experts, capable of identifying and maximizing value for our consigners. It requires the most visited website in the industry, courting a global audience of collectors over 1.5 million strong. It requires a dedicated press department that expands our global reach far beyond the entrenched hobby marketplace. It's hard work, but a simple premise. Present the finest collectibles to the largest population of potential buyers, and world records will come. We invite all listeners to put the unmatched power of Heritage Auctions to work for you. Auction evaluations are always free, and our commission-based fee structure ensures that our interests are always aligned. The highest possible price for your collectibles. There will always be new world records to chase, so let's chase them together. Visit our website at ha.com and request your no-obligation review today.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auction and Collectibles Company. If you're looking to maximize your return on your sports cards and collectibles, look no further. We at Memory Lane Auction House offer you several options to achieve top dollar for your collectibles. Whether you're looking to auction or sell privately, we're the #1 choice with over 17 years in the hobby. Nobody will work harder to achieve your goals. Just call us today at 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE. Or visit us on the web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Go with the best. Go with Memory Lane.
With record-breaking sales from everything from the white border T206 Honus Wagner for $3.12 million to some great items that support the Jackie Robinson Foundation, Golden Auctions has set the highest standards for the finest in sports cards, autographs, and game-used memorabilia. We're always accepting consignments of high-end premium sports treasures or entire collections. Please register for our next auction and bid now at goldenauctions.com. That's golden with an I. We at Golden Auctions are committed to providing unsurpassed customer service for the discriminating collector. That's exactly why we're the leader in the industry. Visit goldenauctions.com or call 856-767-8550. Remember, Golden Auctions. We don't just break records, we shatter them.
With so many fakes out there, it's hard to figure out if the sneakers you want are real. But when you buy eligible sneakers on eBay, you can be confident they're genuine because every pair goes through a meticulous authentication process. Introducing eBay Authenticity Guarantee. First, the sneakers you've purchased are inspected by a team of professional authenticators who carefully examine the shoes, including color, pattern, logos, and materials. Then they're measured and compared to the eBay listing to make sure they match. Even the laces, accessories, and box are checked. Once your sneakers are verified, they receive an authenticity tag, and every tag is NFC enabled so you can see the detailed specs. eBay Authenticity Guarantee. No fakes, no fraud, no doubt.
And in fact, eBay is the place to go for all of your memorabilia, sports or non-sports cards, autographs, and much more. Whether it's a gift for that special someone or you just want to add to your collection, eBay's huge marketplace should be your first stop. And if you sell, now's the time to flip those cards and get some extra cash. I shop on eBay all the time. That's eBay, connecting buyers and sellers globally.
I just bought something on eBay, JM.
So you were connected globally.
I did. I bid something, and the guy that we went back and forth, I bought a signed baseball.
Did you?
Ike DeLocke. Ike DeLocke signed
Oh, Ike
baseball.
DeLocke, sure.
Yeah,
Sure. I
yeah,
thought you were
pretty
going back and forth with Rico, trying to get a... Because one thing we don't have enough of is signed Rico items.
Hey, listen, before we bring... Speaking of signed Rico items, before we bring Mikey in, we're going to... This is our giveaway. You think he posed for this?
I'm not even sure that's him, to be honest with you. No, that's Rico in the sunshine of Fenway Park. What do you think? What year? What are we looking at? 65, 66?
Yeah, this is definitely before 67.
Definitely. You could tell because he has that look like they're going to lose. And which they did.
That's horrible.
Until 67, they lost. Come on.
All right. The giveaway goes to Larry Gettemeyer.
Larry Gettemeyer.
Larry Gettemeyer, will you? Larry Gettemeyer. Congratulations, Larry. You know how it all works. You've won before. You email JM, send a carrier pigeon, text us.
He doesn't even have my email.
Want.
How's he going to email me? He can't email me.
You can text us on the site, Facebook time.
Larry,
What the hell you
don't
do?
text me, Larry. Text Zap, all right?
You got 1 week, Larry. If they don't hear from you in 1 week, you're out. All right, let's bring Mikey in. Mike Provenzale from Heritage Auctions. Now, Mikey, I got to be honest with you. I think we like you better than Grady.
Well, that's low praise, but I'll take it.
Really? I mean, that's like liking rickets over scurvy or something like that. You know?
How you doing, Michael?
Very well. How are you guys this morning?
Wait,
What's up, Mike?
Hold on. Is that I know the painting we've talked about, but what is that thing behind you? The machine?
That's a 1940s slot machine,
Nice.
a dime slot machine. That is going to be coming up in a future auction. One of our consigners had it, unique piece. He wanted to see what it would go for, so We're researching it right now, and it comes with $30 of dimes inside.
JM,
I will give you $35 cash right now for that before it goes to
Yeah,
auction.
it's got to start at least 30. That's the
Well,
minimum.
no, JM, let's think about this.
Yeah.
You know, if we kind of pulled our resources together and purchased that,
Yeah,
I think we can make a few bucks, you and I.
I think you might be right.
Set it up in the studio, see what happens.
Right. Actually, you know something? Below us is the biggest cigar store in New England. Cigar smokers are all gamblers, right?
doubt. You're
I
right.
mean, we could set that up at the entrance to the cigar store,
You're right, buddy. I like the way you're thinking, Zap.
right?
I like
I think
that.
it'd be good.
I like
hey,
that.
Mikey, first of all, let's talk to us. What's going on with Heritage? You guys always have something going on.
Yep.
A lot of auctions going on. We have the David Hall T206 Collection Part 8 open right now.
How many pots are there? I mean, how many freaking T206 cars did David Hall
It's
have?
like the auction version of Roots.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So this is Part 8. Part 9 will be this summer, and that's going to be the last installment. But some more amazing rarebacks. You know how those T206 collectors are. Great researchers. They know the history. There's a lot of ins and outs to it. And I've learned a lot about the T206 collection the last few years. And David Hall's the perfect person to learn from.
You know,
Mike, when I do my extensive show prep, Zap and Mike, you know, I go to the auction house's website, look at stuff. I didn't understand anything on this one. No, I'm just kidding. No, because these are like this is like, to me, this is like the collector's collection here, right?
It is.
I mean, this is like a group of cards, a lot of different companies, Piedmont, what have you. Like, to me, and maybe I'm wrong, if you're looking to fill like a vintage collection, you're trying to get pieces to the puzzle, this is the auction for you.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, when Ellen and I, way back 15 years ago, whatever the hell it was, when we were writing the T206 collection, the players and their stories, for PSA, you know, we had a lot of correspondence and had a lot of chats and discussions with David. And David, all he ever used to say to us, that he was on a mission. He was on a mission to have the greatest T206 collection in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm working on a set. I've got, at the time, I probably owned a couple of hundred of them. And all I remember, I says, well, David, how many do you have? And he looks at me and says, thousands. That's the way he said it. Right?
Crazy.
Because it's not just every player, multiple players have multiple poses, but it's those advertising backs. And you would find the rarest.
The rarest of the rare, you know.
A lot of the ones in this one are the only known combination of a back, or there's only a handful in the population. So if you're looking for some very rare T206 cards, this is the auction for you. And, of course, there's 6-figure and 5-figure cards, but there's also some that are worth a couple hundred, a couple thousand. So there's something for everybody in it.
So, Prov, let me ask you this question before we go on to another subject. So this is the 7th, you said? Hall? 8th. So, I mean, is there any kind of, are you seeing any kind of a pattern to who's buying the cards? Are the same people buying these cards every time the auction comes up, trying to build their own collections?
A lot of repeat buyers, but I also see in these people have bought their first T206 cards from us. So people that maybe are just dipping their toes in or have a player or a unique card that they want. So in the past few years, since the hobby's gotten bigger, T206 is one of the fabled sets. So if you're jumping in and you want to get a little piece of everything, you got to get a T206 card or a Cobb or something like that.
Lena Blackburn, baby. Lena Blackburn actually started my collecting career. Lena Blackburn. God's honest truth.
Pro, what really jumps out at me about these cards across the board, whether it's T206 or different card, what have you, and regardless of the player, and obviously there's different levels of condition, but the artwork and the color like on these cards is really neat, really unique, so different from the modern day cards. Can you just, even some of the poses, of the players, can you just talk about that, almost the artistic, almost aesthetic value of these cards?
Yeah, they're beautiful. Those tobacco issues, especially the ones that are over 100 years, they're beautiful and they're historic. These are pieces of history, and a lot of effort was put into it. And a lot of them are the most iconic images of these athletes, which is something that's very unique to the vintage sets. You know, a lot of people, when they think of Cobb, they think of the red portrait T206, the Christy Mathewson. So there's the images that are really ingrained in collectors' minds.
They're beautiful. They're
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful.
To see them all was unbelievable,
Yeah.
the entire collection.
You know, I want you both to know that at one time I had hair like Shag Shaughnessy. I just want you to know that. All right.
My favorite is Jimmy Lavender.
Yeah.
I did not know that card existed until we got this collection, but you know, he sounds like a 50s Vegas lounge singer.
Oh, I'll tell
Yeah.
you, some of these cats.
I mean, that's a great name for a pro wrestler or maybe an adult film star, even.
Versatile name. Versatile name.
And then there was Jerry Downs, who was a T206 guy, and his career ended wonderfully when he tried to rob a bank and did a little time. It's just kind of cool stuff like that. Michael, what else? What are some of the other auctions coming down the road?
So we're finishing up our spring catalog auction. We're proofing the catalog currently, and it's a monster. It's over 4,500 lots, half cards, half memorabilia, and we have some incredible collections in it, player collections. We've got the Ronnie Lott collection, the Patrick Waugh collection,
Really?
Ted Simmons, Joe Garagiola,
Wow.
Lou Brock. So
Wow.
really some amazing things. And then we have the most incredible Super Bowl ring collection, which a guy came into our Dallas offices a few weeks ago, and he had 42 player Super Bowl rings.
You're kidding me.
Are you serious?
I've never seen more than like 6 or 7 at once.
Wow.
And 42. So we've split it up because that's a lot of rings. So half of them are in this auction, and the other half will be in our August Platinum auction. But just to see them all together is unbelievable.
Now that's something. Is that something you've seen before anywhere, Prov? I haven't seen anything like that. You know, having
No,
that
he
big a
just-
collection of Super Bowl rings. Every now and then in an auction you'll see 1 or 2, but to have that conglomerate is crazy.
And all player rings too, which is so hard to come by.
Yeah.
But you know, he's got all the ones you want. First Cowboys ring, Super Bowl III Jets ring, these gigantic Patriots rings from the modern era, Packers rings. So really impressive collection. And yeah, when our consignment director brought it back, he had it all in a big fancy box and opened it up, and there it was, 42 Super Bowl rings. Unforgettable.
Hey, Pro, we got about 3 minutes left. I'm going to throw some bullets out at you real quick. Your opinion. Bing. Number 1, fractional buying.
They've really made a lot of strides in the last year, and I like it because it's letting a lot more people get involved with items they wouldn't be able to afford on their own. So if you're savvy and you've got a good idea in the marketplace, what's going to be valuable, what's going to get a good return, even if you can't afford a Mantle jersey or Jordan game-worn sneakers, you can get a piece of it and make a little money using your knowledge, even if the item itself is outside of your range.
NFTs, National Football time.
So I handle the NFTs for Heritage, the sports side of it. We also offer them in our art department, which has done very well. It's a fun genre, and I think it's got a good future. It's just kind of the Wild West right now. So I just tell people, be careful what you buy, who you buy it from. And as always, collect what you love. If you see one that you like, that entertains you, or it's something you want to own, go for it.
What's hot? What's not?
Tickets are very hot right now. We have a ton of tickets, debut tickets, especially in the upcoming auction. We have a Pele World Cup debut ticket. We have a Mickey Mantle MLB debut ticket. And we have the only known Kobe Bryant full debut ticket.
Do the tickets have to be full, Prov, to have any value, or can they be torn?
Stubs have value. The full are the more valuable, just because they're rarer. But, I like the stub. The stub was actually there at the event. So,
right.
If you come to it just from the collector and you want something to hold on to, I think that tickets are cool because it kind of straddles the line that it is memorabilia, but it's like cards because it's slab. There's population reports. You can do the research on it that collectors love to do. And there's a lot of good ones out there. And you can find whatever your team, sport, player you're into. You can find cool tickets from there, special moments or historic games, things like that. So that's a cool genre that's up and coming.
Your website address?
HA.com.
Michael, as always, you know we love having you. You mean you and Derek. You guys, I don't know if you realize this. You guys have become cult heroes.
That isn't always a great thing, but
I'll tell you a couple of times at some of the shows, especially in Boston, it's hysterical. People walk up to Grady, they start busting his chops like we bust his chops.
I like to hear that. I really like to hear that. So everybody out there, keep that up.
Absolutely.
All right, Michael. Again, take care of yourself. Have a great week, and we'll see you at the National. Definitely.
Take care.
Looking forward to it, guys. Have a great day.
You can hang with us till the end of the show. JM, what is up? I'm going to be in the studio with you again, bro.
I can't wait, Zap. We're going to have that great chemistry going. I mean, only you and I could have this chemistry 1,500 miles away from each other. But when you're near me, it's going to be even better.
Hey, why don't you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Why don't you come in the studio next week with Rico and I? Although you're not going to be compensated for it.
Oh, then I will not be here.
You're pathetic. You are absolutely pathetic. You really are. All right. I'll see if I can pull some strings.
All right. You buy me a couple nice cigars, I'm here.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll buy you a cigar and a Borelli sub.
Oh, okay. Then I'm here.
All right. With that being said, see you when I get back. We're leaving today. Well, today it's a long story, but we're in the car right now because we're taped. With that being said, JM, thanks. Chrissy, we love you. David, we'll see you guys next week. And to our viewers, listeners, as always, special thanks to Michael. And we love you guys. Thanks for the support and happy collecting.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.